I want to get started by getting to know you. So tell us briefly, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So my name's Daniel Maloney. I'm one of two co-founders of Tailwind, which is headquartered here in Oklahoma City. But I am not a native Okie. I was a transplant. So I was born in New York, grew up in South Florida, went to school in Philly, and then my career was mostly in either New York or Silicon Valley before moving to Oklahoma. That said, that's been about 9 years now since we moved here. So Oklahoma very much is home and has felt like home for a long time at this point. But I think I came in from that perspective of needing to build a community, build a friend network, figuring out what it's like to build a company somewhere where you don't necessarily have deep roots and a deep network yet in the early days. But I always found the community incredibly welcoming and was grateful for that. That said, it's been a really fun ride, fun journey so far, and I'm excited for what's coming up.
Well, let's for those that aren't familiar with Tailwind, tell us about it, what you do, and what problems you solve for people.
Sure. So our mission at Tailwind is to make world-class marketing easy for everyone. And that word everyone is really important to us because when we look at the digital marketing landscape and the marketing technology landscape, what we see is that the vast majority of tools and investment really are geared at larger enterprise tier businesses who have very complex needs and who have very sophisticated marketing functions in most cases. But it creates a really unlevel playing field as well. So if you're a small business, of course you have the advantages of speed and being able to be more nimble perhaps than larger organizations. But when it comes down to knowledge, experience and learning from that experience, access to data, access to tools that unlock new strategies for you, you're really at a pretty fundamental disadvantage. But in a digital world, you are competing with those large businesses because you're looking for the same eyeballs. You're trying to get the same attention, and often you're doing it in the same places on the same channels and networks. So that's a fundamental problem, I think, for economic growth going forward. And baked into our mission is that we are trying to level that playing field. So how do we do that? Well, when we look at most small marketing teams or small business marketing teams, it can start from a single founder who is maybe learning marketing on the fly in a lot of cases and doing it with 15 or 20% of their time, up to maybe you get to a point where you have a marketing team of 3, 4, 5 people, and within that team, often many of those folks are actually learning on the job as they go and might be earlier in their careers as well. And so we look at it as part of the challenge is educating our members and helping them learn about digital marketing, learn the strategies that are or are not beneficial. Part of it is about tools and enablement. So providing the software that enables them to promote their business more efficiently, more effectively in more places, and ultimately maximize ROI. And then part of it is about us leveraging data at scale to guide those interactions through very pointed suggestions and recommendations. So that way they can maximize that ROI. So, an example of that, a tool that we launched in this past year is called Tailwind Create. And it's all about helping people create visual content much faster and much more easily than with other modern design tools. And we're seeing generally it takes about 90% less time. And the content being created through Create is actually performing 47% above average, right? So leveraging data about what types of content works well and then building an intelligent system that designs with your brand in mind and your purpose in mind, it can be done in a cost-effective and time-effective way.
Kind of tell us how the company has grown.
Sure. It's been a constant evolution, right? So we started, I won't go into the full history, or maybe we'll talk about that more at the session, but we went through a couple of early pivots and became Tailwind on the back end of that. But we started going after a greenfield area at the time, which was scheduling and publishing for visual content. Initially, we started with Pinterest as the first partner and network that we supported, expanded to Instagram from there. But what's been happening over the years is as time goes on, we're expanding both the use cases within marketing that we serve. And so now there are many use cases that we help serve beyond publishing and scheduling. So, content creation is one, and some more niche ones related to specific channels. But then also expanding the channels that we serve in parallel as well, which is kind of, both of those in my mind are continuous ongoing marches, right? So our end goal is to wind up in a place where any small business can adopt Tailwind as its marketing system of record and run all or most of its marketing through Tailwind without needing to constantly switch up and back between different tools, which can be a real headache and cost people a lot of time and energy. So that's sort of the direction we're heading in and how we have evolved to date. I think going back 2 years, you said it was, we were probably maybe a 25-person team at that point, and now we're I think around 80 and marching towards 100 pretty quickly. So that expansion of our team with a lot of great talented folks has really powered the expansion of the product and the expansion of the business as well, because it enables us to add on more functionality and support and maintain and improve the functionality we have.
I think I also remember you were getting ready to move into your own building at the time, and I assume do you still have a building now? I don't know, with COVID and you're all working from home.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I'm at home at the moment, but yeah, we are all working from home today. But we also do still have the office. We're just not using it as much as we were. We have some team members who are working out of the office from time to time for various reasons. Either they need a break from the house, or some people have easier work from home environments than others. So we're providing a bit of flexibility there, but ultimately, putting the safety of our team front and center as top priority. So yeah, we're based right if you're coming off the highway towards downtown, off the 6th Street exit.
Yeah, I think I've seen the logo there. Yeah.
Yep, we're right there. That's still our home. But I think we'll continue to monitor how COVID is going and figure out from there what the future of that office space looks like. Because I don't think that answer is really clear to us yet.
No, it was more of a personal curiosity how things were going along. But for the record, though, I really would like to know what's your future at Tailwind looking like?
Yeah, I mean, we're doing a lot of really exciting stuff right now. I think the new products that we have been bringing to market and now are focused on improving and expanding, they're getting some really positive reception. And frankly, it's just fun to be able to serve people in new ways, and it's exciting for us as a team to be adding those new points of value add, right? So we're going to continue keeping our heads down and focusing on that because that's enabling us to grow, build deeper relationships with customers, and serve new types of customers. So it's kind of, it's a constant evolution of that, continuing to innovate, continuing to look for more problems we can solve, and where maybe there aren't great solutions today, and then expanding the product, again, towards that mission of ultimately making world-class marketing easy for everyone.
You mentioned earlier, and you also talked about this a little bit at Startup Grind, making pivots as a company. So for entrepreneurs that might be on the crisp or on that, should I make this pivot or not? Like, what sort of advice, what sort of evaluations do you think people should make when having to make these big pivots in their company?
Yeah, I think the first thing I would say is really businesses should be perpetually pivoting, right? And what I mean by that is not that you need to change your entire value proposition and strategy every 3 months just for the sake of it. But the reality is our markets evolve, the world around us evolves, our customers' needs evolve, technology evolves, right? And so what works today might not work in 2 or 3 years in any given part of your business. And if you're paying attention, if you're measuring what you need to measure, if you're letting the data guide those decisions, you should be able to pick up on it pretty early that something is starting to not work as well. And you can begin investigating, why that might be and how you might need to change. I think that's the more reactive side of pivoting. The more proactive side is continuously being out there with your customers and your target customers, and doing research to understand what needs they have that you're not serving today, which of those needs are growing or emerging over time as opposed to declining or stagnating. Um, and then leaning into those, leaning into the newer needs or the growing needs, because if you align yourself with those, that'll create some natural, tailwinds. Sorry for the pun, in terms of growing your business. So I tend to think of it that way, right? At any moment in time, something's breaking, but five more opportunities are emerging, and so you need to continuously roll with that to build a stronger business each day.
What do you like about having a business here in Oklahoma?
Well, I guess first things first. I love having a business. To me, I really think of it as we're all owners, and we're all actual owners in the company. Every employee, as people would usually say, I don't like the word employee. I like just saying team member. Every team member has equity ownership in the company, so we are all owners. But to me, that process of being an owner, being deeply embedded into ultimately serving the customer and solving real problems for people in itself is massively rewarding. In terms of specific to Oklahoma, I think there are a lot of things. I mean, one, as I referenced up top, having moved here and not grown up here, it is a very welcoming community, and people are kind. They are willing to help out. They're looking for opportunities to help out. I think there is this communal sense of knowing that the opportunity here is far greater than what we've achieved so far, but also we need to work together to get there. And people do a really good job of investing in that and investing in each other's growth without seeing that as competitive or zero sum, right? So I really love that element of the community here. There are great people and very talented people here in Oklahoma, and I think one thing that's been fun for me in Tailwind having a significant presence here is that we've been able to bring a new industry and a new way of thinking into the local market. And it's really fun to welcome new team members into that, to see them learn a new space, learn a new industry, get excited about it. Because I've been there before in my own career. And it just is exciting and fun sometimes to try something different and to learn about a different space. But naturally, software is still a pretty small portion of our economy here locally, right? So that's been really gratifying and fulfilling, because I feel like I've been able to take some lessons learned that I had before moving here and from experience and relationships in the industry, and create some added value within the community here that hopefully will benefit our team members in the community for a long time to come. So that's a lot of fun as well. Another piece that I'd call out, which maybe goes with the community being welcoming, but I found that a lot of like local, city level and in some cases also state and national level, leaders, public leaders that we have here, really are really are invested in getting to know the local business community, understanding areas of growth, and starting to think through how we can do more as a city, as a county, as a state, to help create that growth. And that's been exciting, because I think in larger markets, one, it's a lot harder to have those conversations and to have that access, because the market's so large and competitive already. So that's been a lot of fun. But even if you have the access, because of that size and some very large cities, it can be hard to really influence decisions and directions at all. And I get the sense here that people are really listening, and our leaders do listen, they do care. So yeah, and all of those are some of the things I like about building here in Oklahoma. But I will say also, I really enjoy the fact that a good chunk of our team is not in Oklahoma, right? Because you get more exposure to other communities and other cultures. People share more about their lives. I mean, they're great people. It's nice to have those relationships as well. So I've personally enjoyed being in a bit of a hybrid environment where we're not 100% based here, but we do have a significant presence and a significant role in helping build the community.
In the regards to kind of helping out businesses, I'd like to dive a little bit deeper into sort of what tools and resources you have, because it's not just scheduling posts now. You have data and information. Could you like elaborate on some of that?
Sure. So from a member perspective, yeah, the major use cases I'd say that they're coming to Tailwind for are ultimately helping me plan out what my strategy is going to be and enabling me to capture that in a tool somewhere, so I don't lose it on sticky notes and pieces of paper, and I don't have to do it in Excel spreadsheets. Yeah, that in itself can be incredibly helpful because I can get organized and I can have more of a thoughtful, strategic approach to what I'm doing, right? From there, then content creation very quickly becomes a next major need because once I've got the plan, I need to now execute on it, and content is at the heart of all marketing. That becomes very important. And then you get into, okay, once I've created the content, now let's schedule it out. Let's get it published where it needs to go, when it needs to get there. There, and along the way there are all different points where we can make recommendations. Once it's gone out, then insights and analytics become important, right? They help me learn what has worked or hasn't worked. And one of the cool things about Tailwind in the data capabilities is, we can't expose this to each member individually, but on the back end, we can look at very broad trends that are happening, and we can then make recommendations with that knowledge, not just knowledge of your own account, right? And ultimately, you kind of have to blend the two to get to the right solution because industries are different, companies are different, regions are different, and so forth. But there are many places in Tailwind as you're using the software where we gently guide you in a certain direction, right? So maybe you should be creating about this amount of content. Maybe you should be publishing that content at these times. On the content creation side, you can literally, put in your raw inputs and brand preferences and so forth, and then we will actually generate many design options for you so that if you're not a designer by trade or by training, you don't have to become one overnight to build beautiful content that's going to perform. We can help with that process. And even if you are a designer, we can help you generate a whole bunch of new ideas that you may then want to tweak and riff off of to end up at a better end product. So those are some examples. Like I said, there are some more niche things. So for example, we have a tool called Smart Bio, where creators and small businesses, e-commerce sellers can use that in their social profiles. So for example, on Instagram, where they have their link in their bio, they can use Smart Bio to add links to the content that they publish over time where that capability wouldn't normally be there, and help their viewers, their audience, ultimately navigate to their product and services in a much more efficient way instead of just linking them to their homepage and then they have to go find it for themselves, right? So there are some tools like that that are much more specific to individual use cases, but the broad ones I'd say are, the planning, the creation of content, the publishing of that content, and then learning about the performance.
I'm really curious to I think I want to have to look into that design tool, because I feel like I could, I got a lot of great content, but like I could spice up my designs.
I'd say the vast majority of small businesses feel that way, right? I mean, most of us are not designers by trade, and I personally marvel at what designers are capable of doing. And I think that's it's amazing to me. I mean, our designers within our own team are phenomenally talented. And I look at their work and I'm like, wow, I don't feel like I could ever do that. But I think, for the rest of us, and especially having been in that spot of, being a two-person team and neither of us being professional designers, right? It would have been massively helpful in getting Tailwind off the ground earlier on before we had the team that we work with today. We could have done a much better job than we were able to do in the early days using other common tools out there.
Ending it up now, is there anything else you want to share or talk about for the Oklahoma Venture Forum?
I mean, I think I'm excited to come back. It's been a couple of years. Always good conversations, good folks to meet. I'm interested to see how sort of the online format goes and how that's evolved. I mean, obviously we've all been doing a lot of that this past year, but excited to see that and just to get to touch base with folks, because I think honestly, this past year that's been a lot harder. Keeping in touch with people in the community, friends, acquaintances. you just don't bump into each other and run into each other quite as much when we're all working from home. So I'm really looking forward to it.